Now let's talk some F1. And boy, there's always so many options to choose from with the F1 races. So let me see what's going.
How negative is Verstappen this week?
So let's see here. Let's take a look at the F1 futures first. Uh, let's see. What do we got? Oh yeah, they're showing me that. Why are they showing that they don't have the drivers? Probably because they don't want to show the drivers. It's because they don't want anybody to bet on Max Verstappen anymore. So yeah, so that's all they had
Well,
was just the.
his is going to be only slightly worse than Red Bull's there. So negative 35 there.
35. I mean, are you kidding me? I think at this point, when you go to the window at Vegas, the guy just shuts the window and goes, "I'm taking a break." When he hears when he sees that you're about to put money down on Max Verstappen to win the championship, so
Can you imagine what a collapse it would be? And then granted, I know how early it is in the season, but can you imagine what a collapse it would be to have somebody other than Red Bull win? How, that would be like a casino's nightmare.
well, what would you do? Because Ferrari is the obvious choice, and then McLaren is getting a little love. So would it be obviously Ferrari, or would you put McLaren? Who would you do if you
Yeah,
were just banking on a miracle?
if you're banking on a miracle, it's got to be Ferrari.
Okay.
And like the factory would have to burn down for Red Bull at this point. I think it's going to take a natural disaster because the car is just so much better than maybe it takes an injury, and I hate to say that, but maybe it can happen, and it has happened. So very easily, I mean, that can change. And, Sainz, quite honestly, has had the measure of Sergio Perez for the most part. So still be a tight battle if for whatever reason Verstappen decided to go on a long vacation or whatever. It might be between Perez and Sainz and maybe Leclerc. But Ferrari is the heir apparent if for whatever reason the Red Bull Racing factory breaks off and falls into the sea and sinks to the bottom of the ocean.
All right. So let's now talk about the race coming up. And look, we know the who's in first, but at least it's not 3,500. So Verstappen's at 450. Boy, when you take a look at Verstappen now, after looking at that 3,500, you go, "Oh, that's not bad. That's interesting."
Right.
Minus 450. Okay. Yeah. Meanwhile, they got Perez, Leclerc, Sainz. Those are the only other ones that looks like realistic shots there. Those top four, as usual.
Yeah, and I think that's right. I think the podium, similar to what we've experienced for the majority of the season so far, is going to be Max Verstappen and Sergio Perez. This is a sprint race weekend, so the format is going to be a little bit different than we've seen up till this point.
What does that mean?
Of the season, so they have a short sprint race on Saturday. It's 4 points. It's no pit stops. It's just, I think it's 100 kilometers if I'm not mistaken. So very short, just, designed to draw fans in, more fans to the track on Saturdays versus everybody trying to pile in on Sunday. Whereas if you normally come on a Saturday, you'd just be watching practice and qualifying. So,
well, how many points do you normally get?
You get like half the points, if I'm not mistaken, of a normal race.
Okay.
So points if you end up winning, something like that. But I mean, they're a novelty. I've never really been a big fan. However, I do like the fact that they changed the format, the schedule of the weekend starting this season. And again, China is going to be the first sprint race of this season, so we'll see how it plays out. But last year, they had to practice and qualify for Sunday's race on Friday for those sprint race weekends. So you could have massive weather changes, you could have massive track changes across the weekend, and you're stuck with whatever you put on the car on Friday because you enter parc fermé conditions and you can't do the changes that you need. So you qualified on Friday, you raced the sprint race, you learned a whole ton of stuff that you could not apply to your car on Sunday. So it was kind of like a waste. Whereas now this year, you're actually going to qualify, you're going to practice and qualify on Friday for the sprint race. You'll have the sprint race Saturday morning. You'll qualify for Sunday's race after the sprint race on Saturday, which means anything you learned from the sprint race, you can apply to your car to be able to have it ready to go for the race on Sunday.
Oh,
And
goody. The more information, the better for the best teams. That's good.
Well, yeah. All right. You just popped my bubble, because I was, I was taking the optimistic side that if people learn something, they might be able to actually have a bigger swing at it on Sunday. But you're exactly right, because Red Bull's going to be learning too, and they're going to make the adjustments, and they're going to come out even further ahead.
Well, so, anything's possible. I mean, it does need to have any wrinkle that you add to this series on a weekly basis or on a race to race basis is good. It should be good.
It is, yeah, and it's a change. So whenever there's a change, it always takes teams and drivers a little bit to settle into it. So if there's a chance of anything, unexpected happening, it's probably going to happen this weekend. That, coupled with the fact that this is the first time that they've been back to China since 2019, so they've gone for a long time. It's virtually a new track, even though a lot of the drivers have experience at it. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. There is supposed to be a chance of rain during the one practice session that they have before they get going from a qualifying and race standpoint for both the sprint and Sunday's race. So that could throw a wrench into the mix as well. But I think largely speaking, aside from the novelty of seeing how this format and how the sprint actually plays out with the change and where they place qualifying for Sunday, I do still think on Sunday it's going to be a Max Verstappen and Red Bull Racing show yet again.
Okay, and then because they have the top 6 finish, so can you make any money with any of these drivers down here that are in the pluses, starting with Alonso? Like, would you risk anything that any of these drivers here could finish in the top 6?
Absolutely, Alonso. I mean, he should be finishing in the top 6. He's certainly got the pace. Lance Stroll, teammate, has not had the luck and the momentum that Alonso has been having. Alonso's just been getting more out of the car, which his odds reflect that. So I think Alonso certainly on this list is one that I would be taking. I think Ricciardo, he showed it again. It kind of wasn't, I don't know if it was his fault or if it was a racing incident, but he was out early in Japan. I think Haas has been stepping up. Williams, you've got a discount. Do you see a Zhu on there? There you go, Guan Yu Zhu. So he is one. This is his home race. So
okay.
This could be one, and he actually has had some decent results so far this season. I think it's a long shot to think that he might get into the top 6, maybe top 10 is a potential for him.
Hey, it's China. Maybe they'll find a way to get him in the top 6.
Exactly right. But if you're going to look behind those that are in the negative on the finishing in the top 6, I think Alonso's your must choose.
Okay.
Beyond that, maybe an Alex Albon if Williams can actually if his Williams can actually get him to the finish.
Well, look, you're trying to find anything in F1 to make money off of, and maybe that's the best wager going would be to take Alonso to finish in the top 6 at 2-1.
Exactly right. I think if aside from Verstappen winning, which is a virtual sure thing, I would think Alonso coming in top 6 with a plus 200 is a pretty good bet for Formula One right now.
And who's in second then? Is it
Perez.
Between? Oh, definitely Perez.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. As long as Perez doesn't make a mistake, Red Bull's just got the upper hand. Mercedes is well off the pace. They're having temperature problems. They can't get the tires to work depending upon, I think it's the higher temperature. So I don't know exactly what the temperature is supposed to be in China. If it's going to be a cooler weekend, maybe Hamilton and Russell will be further up the order. But regardless, I still think Ferrari's got the edge. So clear pecking order is Verstappen, Perez, and then probably Sainz out of the Ferrari stable at this point.
And so did you say you already saw the weather? You said it's going to rain?
Potential for rain during the practice on Friday.